Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yes,
And today we're going to be looking at something that I think a lot of us struggle with these days,
definitely.
and that is social media addiction. We're going to be taking a look at a research paper
Oh,
called The Causes, Effects, and Interventions of Social Media Addiction.
okay.
And it was published in the Journal of Education, Humanities, and Social Sciences.
Wow.
And we wanted to help you understand what really drives social media addiction. I think a lot of us kind of have a surface level understanding of it,
Yeah,
but we're going to try to go a little bit deeper today.
I love that.
So
Okay.
the paper starts off by giving a definition of social media addiction, or SMA,
Okay.
and they say it's a behavioral addiction that hinders one's individual life and function due to an extreme level of dependence on social media platforms.
So it's like when it really starts to affect like your work, your
Yeah.
relationships, things like that.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was thinking about this, like, in terms of, like, real life.
Yeah.
What does this actually look like?
Well, I think, if you're constantly checking your phone,
Right.
even when you know you should be focusing on something else,
Yeah.
or like you're sacrificing sleep,
Yeah.
just to scroll through feeds, even though you're exhausted
Mm.
or you're feeling like anxious
Oh, yeah.
when you can't access your favorite platforms, like that's the territory we're talking about.
It's so true.
Mm.
Like, I've definitely felt that anxiety
Oh, yeah.
where it's like, oh, I can't get on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, and you just like, you need to see
Yeah.
what's going on.
Exactly.
Right.
And, I was thinking about this, too, because the paper goes on to talk about how
yeah.
there's a surprising link between a specific personality trait and susceptibility to social media addiction.
Oh, okay.
And that is
Interesting.
neuroticism.
Neuroticism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you heard of this before?
I have heard of that term.
Yeah, basically.
It's like being negative all the time.
Well, it's the tendency to experience negative emotions.
Oh. Yeah.
So like anxiety,
Okay.
worry, self-doubt, more intensely than others.
Right.
And so the research has found that people who score high in neuroticism may be more susceptible to SMA.
I see.
But I also think, when we're talking about these personality traits,
Yeah.
it's not like saying that everyone who has
Right.
these certain traits
Yeah.
is going to
Are just going to be addicts.
become addicted.
Right. Yeah.
There's choice involved.
Yeah, there's personal agency involved.
Mm-hmm.
But it does kind of raise the question of like, why would this be?
Well, I think for someone who's like really struggling with anxiety or self-doubt,
Mm-hmm.
social media can be like a validation machine.
Yeah.
You get those likes, those
Uh-huh.
comments, the shares.
Yeah.
And that triggers those chemicals in our brain that make us feel good.
The dopamine.
Exactly.
We'll need that dopamine.
And so it's like kind of like this quick fix.
Right. For those negative feelings.
Right.
But the problem is,
Yeah.
according to this paper at least,
Yeah.
it's not really a sustainable solution. It might actually make things worse in the long run.
Right. So it's kind of like this
Yeah.
slippery slope almost.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Where it's like, oh, it makes me feel better in the short term,
Yeah,
but ultimately it's actually going to make me feel worse.
exactly.
And, when we're talking about this
Yeah.
and how it makes us feel good,
Mm,
it kind of makes me think about how social media algorithms
yeah.
are designed
Right.
to keep us hooked.
Totally.
They're feeding into that validation seeking,
Mm-hmm.
kind of keeping us on that
Oh, yeah.
hamster wheel.
Absolutely.
And it makes it so hard to break free.
It really does.
So I guess my question for you would be,
Yeah.
do you think that using social media
Mm-hmm.
makes you happier or less happy overall?
That's a really tough question.
Yeah,
It's not always easy to answer, is it?
right.
But the research actually found a pretty complex relationship between well-being and SMA.
So it's not as simple as saying like social media is bad.
No, it's much more nuanced than that.
Okay.
Initially, social media can actually boost well-being.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, think about like connecting with friends,
Yeah.
discovering new communities, or
Yeah.
even finding like support groups for shared interests.
Right.
These can all be really positive things,
Yeah.
that foster a sense of belonging and connection.
So those initial benefits are like very real.
Yeah, for sure.
So when does the bad part come in?
Well, the research actually found that as usage increases,
Yeah.
well-being starts to decline.
Oh, okay.
And there are a few key factors that play into this.
Yeah, I'm really curious to hear about these.
Okay, so one of them is constant connectivity.
Okay.
Being always on can actually lead to workplace stress and the
yeah.
feeling that you can't ever really switch off.
I felt that so much.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when I was working like a 9 to 5
Yeah, it's tough.
It's like this expectation that you're always reachable.
Exactly.
24/7.
It can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And then there's also the negative impact of social comparison.
Oh, yeah.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing yourself to
Yeah.
those like perfectly curated highlight reels that we see that people are posting.
Totally. It's like we forget that that's not
Yeah.
like their actual life.
It's just the best parts of it.
Yeah.
And that can lead to, feelings of inadequacy,
Oh, yeah.
envy,
Right.
even depression.
Yeah, and especially, for younger people.
Oh, yeah.
Cyberbullying,
It's a big
like
way.
a huge risk factor. The anonymity
Yeah.
and the reach of social media
Yeah.
can really amplify the impacts of bullying,
Oh, totally.
which can lead to anxiety,
Yeah.
social isolation,
Right.
even self-harm in some cases.
Yeah. It can be scary.
It's really heartbreaking to think about. So we've kind of seen how social media can initially offer us this sense of connection,
Yeah.
but then ultimately lead to a decline in well-being.
Exactly.
So what can we do about it?
You're right.
That's the big question,
The $1 million question.
the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
The paper dives into this discussion of interventions,
Okay.
and it gets really fascinating.
Yeah.
But, we've all heard that advice of just delete the app.
Right.
Like that's
the go-to.
that's always the go-to.
Right.
But is that always realistic
No.
or even helpful?
No, definitely not.
Yeah. So the paper goes beyond that typical just delete the app advice,
Okay.
and they offer some more nuanced and practical strategies
Sure.
for managing our social media use.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And we'll dig into those next.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so let's talk about some of those strategies.
Yeah.
The paper dives into two main categories of interventions:
Mm-hmm.
self-help strategies and therapeutic approaches. Got it.
And I think with the self-help stuff,
Yeah.
this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
Using technology
yeah.
to combat technology.
Yeah, like fighting fire with fire.
Exactly.
So,
There's so many apps out there that are specifically designed to help you limit your social media use.
wait, really? So there are apps that can help you get off of apps.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It's kind of like counterintuitive.
I know.
Yeah.
It is.
But I guess it makes sense because we're on our phones all the time anyway.
We are.
So why not use that technology
Right.
to actually help us
Yeah,
create those healthier habits?
exactly.
So what are some of the apps that people can check out?
Well, some popular ones include Freedom,
Okay.
and that one allows you to block specific websites and apps for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
And then there's Cold Turkey.
Cold Turkey.
Yeah,
I like that name.
it's a good one, right?
Yeah.
And that one takes things a step further by actually completely locking you out.
Of those websites.
So no matter how much you're trying to get back
Oh,
on,
exactly. You're done.
you're done.
No more late night scrolling session.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there was another one,
Oh, yeah, there's Forest.
Forest.
Yeah, which is a little bit more playful.
Okay.
With Forest, you plant a virtual tree whenever you want to stay focused.
Oh, love
And
them.
if you leave the app,
Yeah.
your tree dies.
Oh, no.
So it's kind of a fun way to stay motivated.
Yeah, like you're accountable
You are.
to your little tree.
Exactly.
It's like a little virtual pet almost.
It is.
Yeah.
So I love those apps for the DIY approach.
Yeah.
But what about, folks who need a little bit more support?
Yeah, like more guidance.
Yeah. That's where those therapeutic interventions come in.
Exactly.
And the paper highlights, too, that are really effective. Cognitive behavioral therapy,
Oh, yeah. CBT?
CBT,
I've heard of that.
and then motivational therapy.
Okay.
So CBT, think of it kind of like a mental workout.
Okay.
So it strengthens your mind's ability to resist those
Yeah.
tempting but unhealthy social media habits.
Okay, so instead of just
Yeah.
white knuckling it
Yeah.
to a social media detox,
Right?
it's actually helping you understand
Exactly.
why you're doing these things.
It's about identifying
Yeah.
and changing those negative thought patterns that are
Right.
making you overuse social media.
I see.
Yeah.
So CBT is kind of about understanding those behaviors.
Yes.
And then,
And coming up with strategies.
yeah, developing strategies for changing them.
Exactly.
Okay. And then motivational therapy.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, it focuses on finding the internal drive
Okay.
to make a change. So
Huh.
it helps you explore your values,
Yeah.
set goals,
Right.
and build the motivation you need to stick to those goals.
I like that.
Yeah.
It sounds very empowering.
It is.
Yeah.
It
It's
is.
not like someone's telling you what to do. It's like you're figuring it out for yourself.
Exactly. It's about tapping into that.
Yeah.
I want to change energy.
Yeah.
And then you figure out the how.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So both of these sound really good.
Yeah.
to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah, not just like the surface level.
Exactly.
So those are like the individual level interventions.
Right.
But the paper actually goes beyond that.
Oh, wow.
And it explores the role of role models
Interesting.
in shaping our healthy social media habits.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like it's not just about
It's not just about us.
what we're doing as individuals.
Right.
It's also about
The people around us.
the messages and the behaviors
Yeah.
that we're seeing in our social circles.
Think about like the people that you look up to.
Yeah.
Your family, your friends,
Uh-huh.
teachers, mentors.
Yeah,
How do they use social media?
that's a good question.
Do they set boundaries?
Right.
Do they prioritize real-world connections? Like, those things can have a huge influence,
Especially on kids.
especially on younger people who are
Yeah.
still figuring out their digital habits.
Yeah, it's like they're looking to us
They are.
to see how to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to set a good example.
Right. It makes me wonder
Yeah.
if we could address SMA
Okay.
at like a systemic level.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like, what if schools and workplaces
Okay.
created environments
Yeah.
that encouraged more balanced social media use?
That would be amazing.
Right.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, imagine a school where digital well-being
Yeah.
is a part of the curriculum,
Right.
and they're teaching kids
Like how to set boundaries.
about the psychology of social media.
Yeah.
You know, the importance of setting boundaries and the power of real-world connections.
Yeah.
Or like a company
Okay.
that encourages employees to disconnect
Yeah.
after work hours
That's huge.
and fosters like a culture of presenteeism, not always on availability.
I love that.
It could be so transformative.
It really could.
Yeah. So I think this is such an important point.
It is.
You know, it's not just about personal responsibility.
Right.
It's about creating these environments
Yes.
that support healthy social media use.
Yeah, it takes a village.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. And so we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
you know, from defining SMA,
Yeah.
talking about neuroticism,
Mm-hmm.
the interventions,
Yeah.
and kind of envisioning this future
Right.
where digital well-being is a priority.
Totally.
But before we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to touch on one more point that the paper raises,
Okay.
and it's the potential downside of intervention.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about all the bad things
Right.
that can come from using too much social media.
Yeah.
But what about if someone completely cuts off all social media?
Right.
Could that backfire?
That's a really good question.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I think, for some people, especially those who rely on it
Mhm.
for connection and support,
Yeah.
cutting it off completely
Yeah.
could actually have negative consequences.
So it's important to remember that social media isn't inherently bad.
Exactly.
Right.
It can be used for good.
Yeah.
It can be a powerful tool for building community,
Right.
staying informed,
Yeah.
even accessing mental health resources.
Yeah. There are a lot of great
There are.
communities online
Yeah,
that are very supportive.
exactly.
So yeah, it's not about
It's not about demonizing it.
demonizing social media.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance
Right.
and using it in a way
Yeah,
that enhances our lives,
exactly.
not detracts from them.
And I think what I'm hearing from you
Yeah.
is that it's all about self-awareness,
It really is.
right? Like knowing yourself,
Mm.
your tendencies,
Yeah.
your triggers,
Yeah.
what brings you joy, what drains your energy. That's so essential when it comes to using social media in a healthy way.
I think that's a great takeaway.
And there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
What works for one person
Yeah.
might not work for another.
Exactly. And this deep dive has really shown that
Yes.
that understanding social media addiction is so much more nuanced
Yeah.
than just saying like,
Right.
oh, you're spending too much time on your phone.
It's about so much more.
It's about personality. It's about well-being.
Right.
It's about the complex interplay between our online and offline lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a societal issue too.
Yeah. And so it's about empowering ourselves
Yeah.
with the knowledge and the tools to kind of navigate this crazy digital landscape
Yes.
in a healthy way.
That supports our well-being.
I love that.
Yes.
Knowledge is empowerment.
Yes.
And so as we wrap up,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with this thought-provoking question
Okay.
on the paper.
Right.
If someone is really struggling with SMA, could completely cutting off social media actually backfire?
It's something to think about.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to think about those potential consequences
Mm-hmm.
of any intervention, even if it's well-intentioned.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder
Yeah.
that seeking professional help
Yes.
is always a good option.
It is.
If you're feeling overwhelmed
Yeah.
or you're unsure how to navigate these challenges.
There's no shame in asking for help.
Exactly. We're all
Yeah.
figuring this out as we go.
We are.
It really is food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just about like black and white.
Yeah.
There's a lot of gray area there.
Absolutely.
And so this whole conversation,
Yeah.
it really makes you think about the balance
Mm-hmm.
that we need to find
Yeah.
in this crazy world,
Right.
this hyper-connected world.
It's a lot.
It is.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, too, about how we need to approach these challenges with empathy
Oh,
and
yeah.
understanding, you know, because we can't just
Right.
shame people
Yeah.
for struggling.
It's a real struggle
Yeah.
for a lot of people.
And it's so interesting how this paper,
Yeah.
it kind of pushes us to look beyond the individual
Mm-hmm.
and think about our social structures,
Oh, totally.
our systems.
Yeah.
How are those impacting our relationship with social media?
Yeah. Because it's not just personal responsibility, right? It's also about like creating environments
Yeah.
that actually support healthy social media use.
Exactly.
You know, it's like we're all part of this bigger ecosystem
Yeah.
and we all play a part in this.
It's like we're all connected
Yeah,
in a way,
totally.
even if we don't realize it.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Schools, workplaces, families,
Mm-hmm.
all of those things can affect our digital habits.
It's so true.
Right.
Yeah. And they can either contribute to the problem
Yeah,
or be a part of the solution.
exactly.
And I think that's a big takeaway.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a parent,
Yeah.
a teacher,
Right.
a manager,
A leader.
anyone in a position of influence,
Yeah.
this is kind of a call to action.
It is.
How can you create spaces
Yeah.
that foster digital well-being?
Yeah. It could be something as simple as setting boundaries
Yeah.
around technology use at home or in the classroom,
Totally.
or modeling those healthy habits yourself.
Yeah.
Showing people that it's okay to disconnect
Yeah.
and, you know, spend time in the real world.
Yeah, and have those real-world interactions.
Exactly.
And I love this idea, too, of just having these open and honest conversations
Mm.
about the challenges of social media,
Yeah.
the opportunities of social media,
Absolutely.
you know, and creating a space where people feel safe
Yeah.
to share their struggles
Yeah.
and to ask for support.
Totally. Because it's not about, you know,
Mhm.
demonizing technology or handing down rules. It's
Yeah.
about empowering people to make those conscious choices,
I love that.
you know?
Yeah, empowering people.
Yeah.
And that's really what this deep dive has been all about.
That's it.
You know, empowering you, the listener, to engage with social media
Mm-hmm.
in a way that enhances your life, not detracts from it,
Exactly.
to understand the forces that are at play, to recognize those potential pitfalls,
Yeah.
and to come up with your own strategies
Right.
for creating a healthy and
Yeah.
balanced relationship with the digital world.
I think that sums it up perfectly.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation,
It has.
and I hope you've learned some new things today.
Me too.
But you know, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
It
There's
is.
so much more to learn and explore
Absolutely.
in this ever-evolving digital world.
Ask the truth.
So keep asking questions,
Yes.
keep challenging assumptions,
Right.
and most importantly,
Mm-hmm.
keep connecting with the real world around you.
Absolutely.
Until next time.